All right, guys, how you doing? It's another Wednesday. So glad to have you back on the channel. And guys, boy, if you are a Zillow person, I got some bad news because Zillow is having a tough month, or rather, they had a tough month. They keep getting it from all angles. Today we're going to be talking about how Zillow is pretty dang screwed. They're facing not only one lawsuit, but now an additional lawsuit. The first one was a class action lawsuit from essentially basically a group of home sellers or home buyers rather. And now the lawsuit they're facing is from the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. So now the government's after them as well, and it's a bit of a sticky situation. So we're going to be getting into that. We also have a few other things to go over, but it's Wednesday. So glad y'all could join me on the screen. Hope you're having a good week so far. As always, my name's Joe, and we're talking about real estate today, and of course the chat is open. So if you have any questions about buying, selling, the real estate process at any time, put those into the chat. You can ask a real live real estate agent in real time. You don't have to worry about going to ChatGPT for some crazy stupid AI answer that's probably not right. Anyway, so put those comments, put those questions into the chat. Like I said, guys, if you guys follow the channel, if you guys hang out here all the time, the best part about live streaming is hanging out with you guys and interacting with you guys, my viewers. So anytime you guys have any thoughts about the articles, have any ideas or questions, please go ahead and put those in the chat. That is open. Also, right down here in the center somewhere, thumbs up icon. Do me a favor, if you're liking the stream, if you're liking the content, please do like the stream. It really does help me out. It doesn't cost you anything. It just helps get the stream to some more people out there and gets us some more exposure. So, all right, guys, we're gonna get into it. We have a lot of stuff to cover today. In fact, if my buddy Point Blank joins us, last week he put a property that into the chat that he wanted us to kind of take a look at. And it was towards the end of a very long stream. And I told him, I said, if he comes back this week, we will go ahead and run some comps. So we'll take a look at that. And we might also do some Zillow cruising as well to see what new cool homes are on the market. And if anybody is in chat and they're thinking about buying a home or want an opinion on a home, put that address in the chat. We'll take a look at it in Zillow or on homes.com or on Redfin. And I'll give you my thoughts about it. I'll give you my critique. We can run comps. And any other questions you have about that property, we'll do some digging live on stream. All right, guys. So before we get into the Zillow thing. Oh, and also, by the way, if you're new around here and you're watching the stream for the first time, or if you're a repeat, let me know where you're watching from. I always like to know where you guys are tuning in from. Obviously, this is on YouTube, so it's like all over the entire globe. But always interested to know where you guys are tuned in from. So let me know where you're watching so that I have an idea of what market you're in. Because let me tell you, the markets are getting even more and more unique. Red, hey Red, how's it going, buddy? How did Zillow get so big? Well, that's a complicated answer, but I'll tell you the main reason they got large and where it sort of the beginning of the end of the road started was probably back in 2010 or so, maybe a little bit earlier than that. The National Association of Realtors made a deal with Zillow to syndicate all their listings. They did a data feed agreement. And Zillow said, hey, we'd like to show all your listings. And the National Association of Realtors said, okay, you can do that. And that was kind of the beginning of the end. Then at that point, Zillow said, okay, great. Now we've got all of basically the MLS listings on our website and we can attract consumers. And at that point, it wasn't too bad. And then what happened is Zillow decided to say, hey, you know what? Now we've got all these people going to our website because we basically have built a public facing MLS with a good interface. And you know what we can do is there's so many people coming to our website now, they're probably going to want information on these properties. And we can charge agents to put their little picture next to these properties. And when someone wants information, we can put that person in touch with that agent who's paying us to advertise. And that really was the beginning of the downfall. Then Zillow became a brokerage. They actually became a brokerage. And now that's when it's really gotten out of hand. And now they do lending, they do loans and sales, and that is probably one of the bigger problems for a lot of consumers because Zillow is a private company and they don't really have to play by the rules. There's not a whole lot that people can do, which we're going to see, because that sounds like it's going to change. It sounds like the FTC is going to make them change, which yikes, don't want to be in trouble with the federals, because that's a lot to deal with and handle. So, man, Zillow, yikes, they're having some problems. But thanks for being here, Red. Always good to see you. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you're doing well. All right, guys. So the first article we have, this is kind of a fun one. This is not related to the main topic at hand. This does not relate to Zillow. But I saw this, and I know that this is, a lot of times agents don't want to talk about this, the C word, commissions, compensation. But I saw this article, and it's talking about how you can basically negotiate commissions with a real estate agent. And I read this article, and I always kind of am interested to see what advice they give, to see if it's legitimate, if it's good, or if they're kind of just loading you up with a bunch of BS. So, how to negotiate commissions with your real estate agent? It's a good question, right? This is a good question. Now, obviously, commissions are negotiable. They always have been negotiable. And now with the lawsuit as of a few years ago, it's even more in the mainstream that it's negotiable. So let me put this up on the screen here. Bingo. All right. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Okay. So I'm going to go through this article, and I'm just going to kind of give you my 2 cents on whether or not their approach or technique is correct. And then I'm also going to tell you exactly how I address compensation with my buyers. And we're going to kind of go through the article and just kind of see if I'm just going to kind of give you my feedback and see if, and let you know if I think some of this stuff is BS or not. There's a couple good points. There's a couple stupid points, but that's like with most news articles, right? Some of it's good, some of it's bad. So let's get into it. How to negotiate commissions with your real estate agent. Buyers must now sign a representation agreement with an agent before making an offer on a home. This is true. Here's how to make sure the fee you're paying is competitive. Now, buyers must now sign a representation agreement with an agent before making an offer on a home. That's true. I as an agent, I like that. As a person, as a consumer, I don't like that. I don't think buyers should have to sign an agreement with an agent before they even tour a home, which is the case here in California, and certainly before making an offer. It would be like, committing to a potential boyfriend or girlfriend on the first date. Like, you don't even know this person yet. You don't know how they work. You guys' personalities vibe. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. And it would be like, committing to the first doctor you go see, or committing to the first mechanic you take your car to. It's like, okay, we're here. You're committed. It's here forever. I just don't think that's a great idea. So as an agent, I do like being able to, commit people to my services. But yikes, that makes me nervous as a consumer. Now, I tell my own buyers all the time, if this is a new buyer to me, if this is somebody that has called me off of, like, let's say, for instance, let's say I have a listing and I have got my sign hanging in the front yard, and someone drives by and they see the sign, oh, it's a nice house. I'm looking to buy a house. I'm going to call the agent. Okay. Boom. It called me up. Hey, Joe, saw you have a house at 123 First Street. I'm interested in taking a look at it. Can you show it to me? Now, as an agent, it would be a little ridiculous for me to say, yeah, sure, I can show you that property. But first, before I show you that property, you have to commit to working with me as your agent if you want to see the home. So if you want to see the home, you have to sign and commit that you're working with me. And this agreement could be an exclusive agreement, and it could be up to 3 months of an agreement. So the first rule of thumb is, if you are a buyer and if you're in this situation, you need to read that agreement very, very carefully. And you need to see if it is exclusive or non-exclusive. You also need to see if it is a certain duration or time. So for example, in California, the agreement can only be a maximum of 3 months, but in some states it can be 6 months. And if it's an exclusive agreement, that means that you cannot work with any other agent for any other circumstance during the period of that agreement. And you have to work only with that one agent. If you work with another agent and end up buying a house, guess what? You might have to pay that other agent a commission, whatever you agree to in that agreement. So that's the first thing. Read that agreement very, very carefully. And secondly, if you're the consumer in this situation, or in my case, I'm the agent in the situation, I tell those types of leads, hey, listen, I am happy to show you the house to be in compliance with the new rules and laws. Hey, got to have you sign an agreement first. But this agreement is only going to be for this particular house. And you know what's interesting? You know what's interesting is what I found is that when you explain to people and allow them flexibility and give them a little bit of grace and say, hey, listen, we have to sign this agreement because those are the rules, but I'm not trying to get you to be locked into me or to be exclusive to me or to commit for a month or 2 or 3. Listen, we can do this agreement and we can just say it's for this house. And if you like this house, great, I'll help you buy it. If you don't like this house, great, no problem. You never have to talk to me again. That is what I do. There are many, many agents out there, and I'm sure if there's agents or brokers watching my live stream, they're like, Joe, you're terrible. That's not what you do. That's not how you sell real estate. Well, guess what? I don't like to rope people into things. So I like to think of it, if I was in those situations, if I was in that situation, if I was in those shoes, I wouldn't want just somebody to be like, oh yeah, here, I can show that house, but you got to commit for 3 months. So if you want to look at a house and you don't want to commit to an agent, just say, hey, listen, I've got no problem signing an agreement. I'll need to review it first. And this agreement will only be specific to this one property. And if the agent doesn't want to do that, great. Turn, tail, and run. Yes, MH, you understand happy customers are repeat business. I just don't think it's a good business strategy to rope people into doing stuff or hide the details. And I know that there are agents out there that that's what they do. This is part of their workflow. I have a listing. Oh, you want to see it? No problem. I can show it to you this afternoon. All you got to do is, and then what happens? This is how crazy it gets, MH. This will happen. Someone will call an agent, and that agent will say, oh yeah, I got no problem. I can show you that property this afternoon. I'll meet you there. What's a good time for you? And you go, oh, great. You know what? I get off of work at 5. How about I meet you at 5:30 at the house? Wonderful. And you think, man, this agent's great. Like they're going to accommodate a same day showing. You pick up the kids from school. You get the wife. You get in the car. You go to check out what could be your new home. You're all very excited. You get there. You meet with the agent. Hey, hello, shake hands. Do you want to go see the house? Great. Oh, before we go into the house, you just got to sign right here. It just says we're just taking a look at the house, and I'm representing you on this showing. That's what a bad agent would say. And then you go, oh, okay, no problem. Boom, sign it really quick. Well, little do you know, you just signed a 3-month agreement. And there are agents out there that specifically will not tell you about this agreement until you're on the porch, on the doorstep. They'll have you sign it on an iPad or a tablet or something like that. Quite frankly, I just don't think that's the right thing to do. So I always try to be very transparent and straightforward when it comes to those agreements. All right, back on with our main event here after that little tangent. All right. This was published just a couple weeks ago. For decades, home sellers typically covered both their own agent's commission and the fee for the buyer's broker, a structure that left little room for negotiation. That's not true. But a recent legal settlement has shaken up that system, opening the door for buyers and sellers to haggle over who pays what and how much. That's always been true too. So this first one covered both own agents, commissions, and fee for the buyer's broker, a structure that left little room for negotiation. Yeah, that's not true. Commissions have always been negotiable. Always. Listing agents, always negotiable. Buyer's agents always have been negotiable. Is there little room for, and again, a lot of these authors of these news articles like to talk about how you can negotiate, but there's not much you can do, and there's little room to negotiate. Well, I got news, guys. You're negotiating with real estate agents. That's difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible. Some real estate agents, believe it or not, suck at negotiating, and maybe you can out negotiate them. But a good real estate agent, it's going to be hard to negotiate with them. And if they're a good agent, they should be a good negotiator, and it should be difficult to negotiate with them. So the idea that it's hard to negotiate with your real estate agent, I'm not saying that's how it should be, but I'm saying that probably means you have a good agent, and also that means that probably they're going to negotiate well for you on their behalf, and that means that they're probably worth the fee that they're charging. All right, MH, what do you got? I'm the type of jerk that walks away from the crap like that. Yep, I left closings because they snuck stuff in there. Yep, and that's what you have to do. And then unfortunately, you can only be your own advocate, right? And that is part of the reason I like to do these live streams and I like to talk about this stuff is because, in real estate, people get taken advantage of. And that's really, really frustrating for me. It's really annoying to me. I'm someone that really tries to do the right thing, follows the rules, and really just follows the golden rule. How would that person want to be treated? How would I want to be treated? That's how I'm going to treat that person, right? So that's what you have to do. You have to be your own advocate. You can't be afraid to walk away from things. You can't be afraid to ask questions. You can't be afraid to ask tough questions, especially MH. So yeah, keep it up. If anything doesn't seem right, if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't sound right, walk the heck away. All right, guys. But a recent legal statement has shaken up the system, opening the door for buyers and sellers to haggle over who pays what and how much. That's slightly true. I mean, you could always do this before, but the system is a little bit easier now. I will say that. In the Bay Area, many agents ask for a 2.5% to 3% commission, a rate they say is justified given their experience and market knowledge and the time they take to help clients navigate the process of buying and selling a home. Okay, so generalizations. Kate, the author here, has made some crazy, insane generalizations, which is what most members of the media do. So right here, a rate they say is justified given their experience and market knowledge. Not every agent has the same experience or market knowledge. Some agents that don't have the experience or market knowledge probably aren't worth 2.5% or 3%. So just by saying that, oh, many agents ask for 2.5% or 3%, because, oh yeah, an agent, you got market knowledge and experience. That's not always the case. So it's obviously going to be a case-by-case basis. And certainly if you have an agent that's not experienced, I would absolutely be trying to work the commission down on that. At the time they take, agents may also face pressures from brokerages, which may receive anywhere between 15 to 30% of that commission to keep fees close to 2.5%. So basically they're saying that the brokerage is collecting their 15 to 30%. So they want that agent to take that commission nice and high so that that they can make more money. Okay. My first thing with this is brokerages. I've never been in a brokerage that has pressured me to take a certain amount of commission. In fact, I just did a deal because of particular circumstances where the commission was less than 1%. I got paid less than 1%. Now, there were some very, very, very unique circumstances, and the structure of the deal was very unique. And we came up with a system that worked for everyone in regards to compensation, and it worked out fine. But I didn't go back to my broker and say, hey, I just did a deal for less than 1%. And my broker didn't go, what? That's crazy. You're fired. You can't do that. They said, Joe, we trust your judgment. And we hired you to work here because we know you'll do the right thing and do a good job. So that's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. So this idea that you're getting pressured from brokerages, now that's just my brokerage, right? They're not all the same. But the fact remains that to me, it's not a crazy thought to say, oh, the business, the brokerage wants to try to keep the commission that they earn high so that they make a better return on investment. They have a better margin. Isn't that every business that's ever existed? Isn't every business that's ever existed tried to always charge as much as the market will bear for their product? I mean, that's like the free market. That is capitalism, right? That's how that works. So this idea that these brokerages are the evil boogeyman because they're trying to make money, well, yeah, that's what all businesses do. And keep in mind, if you don't want to give your money to this greedy brokerage and these greedy real estate agents that are worthless door openers, go ahead and FSBO. Go ahead and for sale by owner. Go in, buy unrepresented, and you can do all the research and hopefully you don't wind up in court or you wind up sued. But the idea that brokerages, there's something wrong with them because they're trying to make money. Well, your doctor's also trying to make money. Your lawyer is also trying to make money. Your mechanic is also trying to make money. You are also trying to make money. So I don't see the big, oh my God, travesty there on that. Although some agents don't budge on their rates, some will under the right circumstances. This is true. Here's how a buyer or seller can strengthen their hand in negotiations. Okay, let's see if their tips when it comes to negotiations have any weight. Let's find out. All right, show that you're serious. Matt Castillo, an East Bay agent, said that part of the reason agents set their fees around 2.5% is because it's so uncertain whether their client will actually close and the agent will get paid. You might be working with someone for a year and they may never buy. He said, yeah, that is true. There is a bit of a theory where it's like, hey, A lot of real estate agents waste a lot of their time with a lot of general members of the public. And when a client has a successful sale or a successful purchase and the agent gets paid, there is a theory that that buyer, that seller, that client is kind of also paying for all of the clients that wasted time before them. Now, there's no way that that can be, linked or proven, right? But that is kind of one of the theories, is that unfortunately, part of the real estate business is that time gets wasted. Your time does get wasted. My time gets wasted. And the only time I have the opportunity to make up for that is when my time is not wasted and I close a deal. For instance, I had someone call me on Friday. They said, Joe, I want to sell my house. They were located about 30 minutes away from me. And I said, okay, great. We talked for 50 minutes on the phone, 50 minutes. We talked about strategy. We talked about potential valuation, answered some questions from this person. And finally, we ended an appointment and said, hey, why don't you come out to the house 11 a.m. on this day and take a look around, and we can talk about a price and what we can do to get it sold. Well, wouldn't you know, I go out to the house, show up 5 minutes early. I'm there, stand on the porch, knocking on the door. Nobody answers. I go try to call the person. No answer. I text them, hey, I'm at the house. I'm here. We have a meeting today. No answer. So I wait for about 10 or 15 minutes. Hey, maybe they ran out to the store. Maybe there was an emergency. Maybe they needed to go, to a neighbor's house or something. Nobody showed up. Finally, I get a text about 20 minutes later that says, I'm sorry, I need to cancel. Well, I'm already here. Listen, I get that things come up. So what did I do? I left all the material that I made, which I made a market analysis and got prepared comps and a marketing plan, all these things, right? I left it on the doorstep and then drove back to my office to do more work. The grand total of income for spending 50 minutes on the phone, doing a market analysis, driving out to the property, hand delivering the material, following up, $0. I lost money on that. Actually, I probably lost about, in not including my time and actual lost cost, I probably lost about $50, $40 to $50 in fuel, wear and tear, printing, MLS fees, all that stuff. Now, that's part of the life I live as a real estate agent, but that is also partially why fees are so high. If I charged hourly, I would have collected a fee, and maybe clients that I sell their home and they're super straightforward and they don't need handholding and I did an hourly fee for them, they might save a ton of money, but then I'd have to charge everybody an hourly fee. So for instance, in that case that I just described where I spent an hour or about 15 minutes on the phone, if you called up an attorney and spent 50 minutes on the phone asking them questions about your case, would you get a bill in the mail? Yes or no? You would. Would that bill be small or big? Well, for a phone call, it would probably be a pretty big bill because that attorney is probably charging between $200 and $500 an hour. And for a 1 hour phone call, it's probably about 50% of that. So yes, real estate agent fees are not small. They're not insignificant. And part of that is because we don't know if we're going to actually get paid or not. And we don't know if we're going to complete a successful sale or transaction. So that is a decent point. As a buyer, show an agent that you'll make their time worthwhile. Get pre-approved for a loan. Make sure you understand your budget and how much home you can afford. If an agent feels that you're likely to buy a home with them, they may be more willing to negotiate. This is true as well. If I see a buyer that is more motivated, certainly they are going to have me more engaged working for them. Will it make a difference in how much I charge them? Maybe or maybe not. It really just depends. And then, everything is negotiable, right? I will say that if I felt like, hey, this buyer is locked in, they really want to buy a home, they're really committed to me, they're going to work with me, well, then chances are I'm going to go the extra mile to make sure I do what I need to do to make sure they get the home they want. And if that means maybe me giving up a little bit of commission to make the deal work, I'm more likely to do that with a client who I know is committed, is going to be a repeat customer, and is going to refer me. That makes sense, right? Dominic, you're asking good questions, brother. All right, let's see. Why haven't agents moved towards a retainer type system like lawyers? That's a great question, and I would absolutely love to do that. The unfortunate part there is that there are many real estate agents, and if I set a retainer and said, "Hey, here we go," as your example, you give me 2K up front, and it comes out of the commission at the end of the transaction. Yeah, you absolutely can do that. That is something that can be done. The only issue with that is that let's say I told that to a prospective client, and I said, "Hey, this is all great. I'm looking forward to helping you buy your house. Here is a little bit about me. I've been in the business for over 13 years. I've sold $100 million worth of real estate. I'm an accredited buyer's representative. I can do a good job for you." And they go, "Great, Joe, that sounds wonderful." And I go, "Okay, great. Well, I charge $2,000 upfront as a retainer. And then once you buy a house, I will credit you $2,000 back." And you think, "Hey, that's a pretty good deal, right? That's pretty fair for the consumer." Well, that consumer is going to go, "Well, I just talked to 2 other agents and they didn't charge me anything up front." And then I might be able to make the claim that, well, are they as good as me? Have they been in the business as long as me? Are they accredited buyer's representative as I am? All these things, and they may or may not be. But at the end of the day, trying to get that $2,000 up front could cost me a commission of $15,000 or $20,000. That person could just say, "You know what? I don't want to go for that. I don't want to do that." And it was interesting because when we had the commission lawsuit, there was talk of, hey, maybe people will go to an hourly rate, which consumers would hate. Consumers would hate if agents went to an hourly rate. And quite honestly, I will tell you why it's not a good idea to charge hourly for real estate. And it would be great for me as the agent. It would be great for me. But as a consumer, it would be terrible if you had to pay hourly, because here's the thing. I can't show you. I was going to pull up my phone and show you text message from a recent transaction. Usually in a transaction, I'm looking at probably roughly over the course of an escrow, 100 text messages, 200 text messages with a client, 50 to 80 emails, and probably 20, 30 phone calls in varying length. Okay, if I charged hourly every single time you text me, you call me, you email me, guess what? I start the ticker. Any question you have, anything, anytime you want to talk to me, I have to charge you for that. What that's going to do is that is going to make you not want to ask me questions. What that's going to do is that's going to mean that you don't have the information that you need to have a smooth, successful transaction. It's going to deter customers and clients from reaching out to their real estate professional and asking the questions and getting the information that they really should be getting, because the agent's going to say, "Well, I have to charge you hourly because that's what we agreed on and that's what you wanted and that's what we're doing. So this phone call right now that we're on, I'm charging you for." That hourly phone call, that 50-minute phone call to speak with that person, if I calculated my hourly wage, it probably would have cost them $100, $150, if not more than that. And a lot of people aren't willing to pay that up front, especially when there are other options to just go get the information for free. Now, what they don't know is that if they're going to go to another agent and get that information for free, there's a reason that agent is giving away the information for free. Taxi driver turned lawyer I know has an old Rockwell meter in his office. It works. Yeah, there you go. Just got start the meter, baby. It's like, "Oh, you're welcome. All right, start the meter. You're walked on in, and when you leave, we'll turn it off." I'm telling you, it really wouldn't be a bad way to go. I also know that there's this one realtor in the Southern California area, not in my direct market, but his whole thing is, I only charge 1%. 1%. So either you can pay me, but the seller pays me, but I only need 1%. That makes your offers more competitive because you're asking less of the seller. This is true. Agents like that, though, what you have to watch out for is what they are not going to do for you. What this agent does not do for you is he doesn't show you homes. He doesn't advise on the homes that you're looking at. They're not going to pull comps for you. Basically, it's come to me when you want to write the offer. And he's extended this to the entire state. So an agent who's out of the greater Los Angeles area is basically like, "Hey, if you find a home up north in San Francisco or Stockton or Redding and you want to buy it and you only want to pay 1%, shoot me the address. I'll write up a purchase agreement. I'll get your offer in." But then the problem comes is, what happens when there's an inspection? Well, he's not going there. He's not going up there for an inspection, not for 1%. what's he going to do when there is an issue at the property? He's not going to show up and check it out for you. Is he going to show up to your final walkthrough? Probably not. So just as with everything else in life, typically, guys, you get what you pay for. And in some scenarios, that could be a good thing. If you're a well-versed buyer, let's say you've bought 10, 15 homes, you want to buy a condo and you're like, you know what? I don't want to represent myself. I do want an agent, but hey, you know what? I'm going to go with this agent that's cut rate. I don't need anyone to hold my hand. I found the property. I've done this before. Just submit the paperwork. You know what? That's probably a great avenue for some people. But for most buyers that are like average home buyers, where they're like, I need to know about this neighborhood. Joe, what can you tell me about this home versus this home? What are the pros? What are the cons? What's the deal with this HOA? What's the deal with that HOA? How does insurance work here? Is this are we in a fire zone here? And is that home across the street easy to insure? And is that home across the street impossible to insure? And does that affect the value of the home that I'm about to buy or sell? Yeah, all that stuff goes into account. And that's all stuff that agents like that don't know because they're not in the thick of it of their local market. So, all right. Well, we certainly got off onto a tangent on that one. That's what we do best, though. All right. As a seller, make it clear that you're motivated to sell so the agent doesn't think there's a risk that you'll take the property off the market. Most agents aren't too worried about this. Most agents aren't too worried about this. And here's the thing. If an agent takes a listing that doesn't sell, chances are it's that agent's fault. Here's why. That agent didn't tell the owner what they needed to do to get the property sold in terms of like, hey, fix this, address that, repair this. Or, and what's more likely the case, that agent took the pricing advice of the seller and they said, hey, Mr. Seller, what do you think your home's worth? And Mr. Seller said, I think my home's worth $800,000. And all the comps showed $650,000. And that agent goes, hey, $800,000 sounds like a great number. Let's list it, because that agent's desperate. They don't have any listings. They don't have any business. And they think, hey, one overpriced listing is better than no listings. And what happens? It doesn't sell. So an agent that's a good agent, that's worth their salt, is going to tell the seller two things. Number one, what the price is that they need to take the listing at in order to get it sold. And two, what do they need to do to the property to make it attractive to buyers? Is there something that needs to be done? Do we need to fix some stuff up? So as a listing agent, if a property doesn't sell, no, it's not always 100% your fault, but it's always not 100% not your fault either. If the listing is overpriced, if the seller wants $800 on a house that's clearly worth $650, don't take the listing. Very simple. I wouldn't take that listing. I'm in the business of getting houses sold, not getting them listed. I want to get houses sold. Define how much help you really. Okay, so to recap, yeah, this is kind of stupid as a seller. That's not really going to help you save on commission. This one, will it help you save on commission? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It's possible. I don't think it's going to help the buyer save on commission, but what it might do is it might help the agent understand that you're really, really serious. And then if that agent needs to go the extra mile for you, which could include chipping in some commission to make the deal work, they're probably going to be more likely to do so. All right. So another thing they say is define how much help you really need. Some buyers want their agent to come along to every showing. Others want someone who will come in at the end and help negotiate price. If you don't need an agent who will hold your hand, tell them. This is true. This is true. This is true, guys. So I wouldn't, the interesting part here is like some buyers want their agent to come along on every showing. Well, I mean, unless you just want to be relegated to open houses, you're going to need an agent to get into the house, right? So unless you just go to open houses, which then you can do. But if you don't need an agent who will hold your hand, tell them, yeah, absolutely. Guys, this is how I just did a deal for less than 1%. I had someone approach me and they said, Joe, I buy houses left and right. I want that specific house. This is the offer I'm going to write up. I'm going to write up a full price, all cash offer, no contingencies, no inspection, 10-day close of escrow. I said, wow, that's going to be a very strong offer. In my head, I'm like, this is the strongest offer I've ever written. And he goes, and I'm going to pay you this much. Or I'd like to pay you this much. And he said, because I know that this is going to be a straightforward deal. And he goes, I value your expertise. And I do know that I need a good local agent. And he goes, I know that you know the listing agent, you know the sellers, you know the owners. And a lot of times in real estate, the relationships matter. The relationships that your buyer's agent has with other local listing agents makes a difference. That is not BS, guys. That's very, very true. This is a little nugget of gold for home buyers out there. If you're a home buyer out there and you think working with a local agent is just whatever, no, you're wrong. Working with a good local longtime agent who has connections with other listing agents is a huge advantage. For example, I already know there's listing agents in my neighborhood, in my area, in my community that have told me, Joe, when I see your name on an offer, I know that offer is good. I know you don't waste your time with bad clients, and I know that you get homes sold. So when a listing agent sees my name come across in an offer, they're more likely to go back to their seller and say, hey, we got a good offer from a good agent. This agent represents good clients. This is an offer worth very seriously considering or just taking. So it can make a difference. So my client knew that value, and he goes, but he also knew that his offer was going to be straightforward. And I told him, I said, hey, you're right. This is one of the strongest offers I've ever written. You cannot back out once it's submitted. It's full price. It's all cash, and it closes in 10 days. Okay, I'm not an idiot. That's a great offer, and it's going to make my life much easier. There's not a whole lot of negotiating I need to do. And we didn't even have inspections. He said, I want a discount. And I said, yeah, that's worth a discount. That is fair. And he ended up being a phenomenal client. He's already turned around and given me another deal. And we're probably going to work together in the near future. So I think it was very well worth it. So there definitely is some truth to this. This also kind of piggybacks along with what I was talking about that 1% agent that we were just talking about. If you don't need a lot of help, tell the agent that. And chances are you might be able to get a deal. However, something to consider is make sure you actually don't need the help. If this is your first or second or third home purchase, or the first time you've bought or sold a home in more than like 10 years, don't just think you can do it because you watched a YouTube video on for sale by owner and you read some stuff on Google. That's a great way to lose a ton of money and end up in court. I would really only advise that you do this, hire the agent to just write the offer thing, if you're a very experienced real estate buyer or seller, specifically in the area that you're buying and selling in geographically. So if you've bought and sold a ton of houses in the Los Angeles area and you want to buy another one and you don't need the handholding, great. Tell the agent that, forget it, save yourself some cash. But if you've bought and sold a ton of homes in LA and now you're trying to buy something in Boise, Idaho, and you think, oh, no problem, I've bought and sold, I'm just going to go up there, I'm going to find a home, I'm going to do this myself, and then I'll just hire an agent to write an offer. That's a recipe for disaster. Same goes for sellers. If you're handling certain parts already, like the staging or the photos, you may be able to get a price reduction. No, that's not going to happen. Maybe potentially staging, but I got news. Photos, that's not a big enough of a cost for an agent to say, oh, you're going to do the photos yourself? Great, I can give you a discount. Because you know what's going to happen is that seller is going to walk around with their iPhone and they're going to take photos where the camera's crooked, where you can see their finger in the corner of the frame because it's covering the lens. The lights aren't going to be on. The angles aren't going to be good. Guys, the marketing of the property, the photography of the property is one of the most important things in a real estate listing. So I would certainly not leave that to the owner unless they happen to be a photographer by luck. I would insist on saying, no, I have a professional photographer. I know the work they turn out. Here's an example of it. It always comes out good, and photos are too important to skimp on. We're not doing that. So for sellers, that's not really going to save a lot. For sellers, you're paying the agent to expertly market the property, expose it to everyone, and then work that offer, negotiate on your behalf, and get that through to the closing table without giving up a bunch of concessions, repairs, cost for repairs, things like that. So seller's agent, they're not going to be given a ton of discounts because you say, oh, I'm really good with my iPhone camera. No. That's a good way for us to negotiate, blah, blah, blah. Price matters. If you're buying or selling a more expensive property, you may be able to reduce your fee since the agent's overall payout will be larger. This is true. If you have a luxury property, if you're at a very, very high price point, and the property is in great condition, it's desirable, and you're thinking about listing at a reasonable price, there very well could be opportunity for you to say, hey, listen, I want to talk about commission. This is, big sale, all this stuff. Can we do something about that? Very, very possible. Same goes for buyers. Yeah, if you're buying an expensive house, there is a very good chance that you will be able to maybe talk about commission a little bit. Use the same agent for multiple transactions. Folks, this is the biggest one. This is the best one. This is the biggest and best way to get a discount on your real estate fees. Use the same agent for multiple transactions. Guys, it's just like Costco. The more you buy, the more you save. The more you buy and sell with a real estate agent, the more you're going to save on fees. Absolutely true. And usually the way that works is this. This is typically the way that you want to do it. If you're a seller and you say, hey, Mr. Agent, I'm going to sell my house. I want you to sell my house. Then I'm going to turn around. I'm going to buy another house. So, oh, great. The agents right away is like, oh, great. That's wonderful. I'm going to get 2 deals. This is great. Well, as a seller, what you should do is you say, on the first one, I'm going to pay you, the full commission. I'm going to pay you 3%. I'm going to pay you a full commission. And then when I buy a house, I want you to do it for 1.5% or 1.25% or 1.75 or whatever you guys agree on. That agent is more likely to go, yeah, okay. Then if you would have just said, you know what, I'm going to sell my house with that agent, but then I want to go to you to buy. And since I'm selling with that one and I'm buying with this one, I'm paying a lot of fees. I only want to pay you 1.5%. That agent can say, that's not my problem. It's not my problem that you have to pay that person too. You have to also pay me too. And my fee's 2.5%. So if you do tell them, yeah, I'm going to do multiple transactions, that's great. But it's important that you give them the full commission up front and then rebate the subsequent commission. That'll keep the agent more engaged with you and more engaged with the process of getting your home sold. So this is definitely something that's probably the best tip in the whole article. Shop around. Knowing the market and where there's charge will put you in a better position to negotiate. Well, yeah, this goes for anything. You should always shop around. You should always get multiple quotes. You should always get multiple opinions on things. So this is really important because there are some agents in my market that they charge 2.5% for commissions. And guess what? If they don't get 2.5% from the seller, they only get 2%, they're going to make you pay an extra 0.5%. There are agents in our market that do not do that. That will say, hey, you know what? I charge 2.5%. But if the seller only gives me 2%, I'm not going to make you pay. It's a little bit greedy. That's the way that I operate. I tell clients right up front, we're going to agree to 3%. Depending on the property, the commission that I'm going to ask for to be paid by the seller, not the buyer, I'm going to ask to be paid between 2.5% and 3%, depending on the property. What I mean by depending on the properties, I mean by depending on how long it's been on the market. Is it going to be a multiple offer scenario? Is it highly desirable or coveted? Is it a new listing? Depending on those answers, I adjust accordingly. And then I tell them, if we get countered and the seller says, I'm only going to pay you 2.25%. And you say, but Joe, we agreed to 3%. That means that's 0.75% that I'd have to pay you. I'm going to say, no, we don't have to do that. Anything over 2%, and I'm just speaking for myself here very candidly. I don't know about any other agents. Anything over 2%, I don't make my buyers pay a difference. So although you and I might agree to 3%, we write an offer and we negotiate, and the seller says, well, I'm only going to give you 2%. I'm going to say, dang, okay, well, I really would like 3%, but I'll take 2%. Okay, fine. Well, that's good for you. Buyer, you don't have to pay me anything out of pocket. And there are some agents out there that do not do that. Now, I do tell my clients, hey, if we get countered and the seller says, I'm going to come back, I'm going to pay you 0.4% or 0.5%. I tell my clients, we're going to have to talk about that because I cannot work for that amount of money. My brokerage cannot take the liability for that amount of money. It wouldn't even cover our insurance to cover this transaction. So I tell them, hey, we're going to talk about that. But the point is that very transparent, it's very upfront, and try to do the reasonable, correct thing. Point out that you don't want to be at a disadvantage to others who do negotiate. Stephen Brobeck, senior fellow at the Consumer Policy Center, a consumer advocacy group, had advice for buyers and sellers. If an agent insists that their fee doesn't matter because the sellers are the ones who pay, push back. Buyers should ask, won't that put my offer at a disadvantage if another buyer has successfully negotiated a lower rate, he said. Yep, it's true. It's a great point. Sellers should instruct the agent not to offer a specific rate to inquiring buyer agents and simply say it's negotiable. Absolutely. If an agent calls me up and says, hey, Joe, I see you have a listing. Is your seller paying a commission? And if I say, yes, they are paying a commission, they're paying 2.5%. That agent goes, oh, great. I was only going to ask for 2%, but now I'm going to ask for 2.5% because you already said that. You just negotiated against your own client. So that's why they're saying, hey, when someone calls up and says, hey, is your seller paying a commission or is it compensation? And you say, yes, they are. It's negotiable, but they're open to talking about it. Now that agent goes, okay, well, I know they're open to something, but they're not just going to give it away to me. So that's absolutely true. All right, guys. Well, we spent a ton more time on that article than I originally anticipated, but I think that, the commission tips are really, really important. Try to keep some money in your pocket. Hopefully this gives you a little bit of insight into how commissions work and how the commission agreement works. Of course, if you guys have questions about how to negotiate commissions or compensation or what to say to your agent, whether you're buyer or seller, put it in the chat. We're here. Let's talk about it. And I'm happy to give you my 2 cents. And now, folks, it is time to get to the main event. Zillow. Yikes. Zillow's no good, very bad month. Before we get into this article, though, I would like to just hit this video really quick. And this is from CNBC. And this is just a really short 1.5-minute video that talks about the latest lawsuit that Zillow is facing. And very quick, just to give you guys a quick recap, Zillow is having a horrible, horrible month. They're in the facing 2 lawsuits. One lawsuit from consumers that have felt that they've artificially inflated fees in compensation, and that's a class action lawsuit. And the other lawsuit is from the Federal Trade Commission. It's a federal governing body that has said, oof, we think you have done some antitrust stuff, and you've done some stuff that have hurt consumers, and now we're going after you for that. And the repercussions could be gargantuan. I've never been so happy to not be a Zillow agent. Yes, I have a profile on Zillow. Every agent has a profile on Zillow, but I am not a Zillow agent. I don't pay Zillow a cent. I don't advertise with Zillow. Zillow does not advertise me. So I'm so glad that I'm not connected to them right now, because there are a lot of agents that built their business with Zillow and they're feeling the heat. All right, let's get into this one.
We have breaking news on the housing front now. Diana Olick with the details. Hey, Di.
Hey, Scott. Yeah, the Federal Trade Commission just announced it is suing Zillow and Redfin over what it alleges is an unlawful agreement that eliminates Redfin as a competitor in the market for advertising rental homes on internet listing services. That's ILS.
Which is interesting, because haven't you guys ever noticed that there's really no leases on Redfin? That's really interesting, isn't it?
That's like the MLS for rentals as opposed for home buying. The websites renters use to find listings. Now, Redfin and Zillow operate 2 of the largest rental ILS networks by traffic and revenue, including sites like Zillow Rentals, Rent.com, and ApartmentGuide.com. The complaint alleges that in February of this year, Zillow and Redfin entered into an illegal agreement to dismantle Redfin as a competitor in the ILS advertising market for multifamily rental properties in exchange for a $100 million payment, it alleges, and other compensation from Zillow.
Okay, let's unpack this a little bit. So Zillow went to Redfin and said, hey, we'd like you to not show lease listings. We want to show the lease listings. And Redfin said, no, that doesn't sound good for us. And Zillow said, well, how about if we give you $100 million? $100 million. And Redfin goes, okay, for $100 million, you can have all the lease listings you want. And so Zillow and Redfin entered this agreement that basically said, hey, when this listing comes up, it's not going on Redfin, it's going on the Zillow website. And in order to do this, there's $100,000 or $100 million consideration. This is literally the opposite of antitrust. Like, this is such a big problem. That is like so anti-competitive. Basically, what's happening is these 2 competitors colluded together, got together and said, we're going to take you away as a consumer option, and we're going to pay you for that to go away. And then we're just going to funnel everyone towards us. Yikes.
The complaint says Redfin agreed to end its contracts with advertising customers and help Zillow take over that business. Now, I've reached out to Redfin CEO Glenn Kelman as well as to Zillow. Zillow stock is down 4% on this. So far, no comment from the 2 of those. But Scott, you may remember earlier this year that the FTC went out for apartment landlords, alleging that they were using different motives to keep pricing in a certain level, and that was they actually went after Greystar earlier this year for that. So you can see that they're looking on the payment side as well as on the advertising side for all rental housing.
Finally,
Yikes.
a platform.
So, that's just one of those things where it's like it's gonna get really, really dicey. That was a very, very quick, brief overview. That was when the news was just breaking a few days ago. Now, since then, some articles come out. We have a little bit more context to the situation. So let's get into this one. This one came out today. It's been a rough few weeks for Zillow. Let's make it a little bit bigger. There we go. The country's most popular home search portal is fighting battles on several fronts. It's fending off a flurry of high-stakes lawsuits, including an antitrust claim from the federal government. Its attempts to stem the rising tide of exclusive inventory, homes marketed for sale but initially kept off of portals like Zillow, appear to have fallen flat. And the company's chief rival in that fight, the real estate brokerage firm Compass, just announced a mammoth acquisition that could give it greater influence over the way America's homes are sold. That is a great paragraph that sums up why Zillow is, they're not dead in the water, but they are floundering. They're getting hit because Compass just made a huge acquisition, and Compass and Zillow are like, remember earlier this year, we did a stream on this. Compass said, we're going to do private listings, and we're going to allow our people to not put their homes in the MLS. We're going to list them on our private database because we feel that sellers should have the option to list their homes the way that they want. And Zillow said, wait a minute, if you don't put them in the MLS, they don't go to our website. Remember, guys, Zillow's product is real estate listings. If real estate listings are not on Zillow's platform, their business is over. That's their whole point. So basically, Zillow said, wait a minute, if you don't put your listings on our website, then we have less product on our website. We're going to attract less consumers, sell less ads, take less money from less real estate agents. It's just not a good thing. And so Zillow came out and said, all right, great, Compass, if you want to do that, then if your listings aren't on the MLS in 24 hours, we're just not going to show your listings. We're just not going to show them. And that created a little bit of a battle. And so that was some of the pressure that Zillow was facing originally. Then Zillow gets sued by FTC, as we've seen. Then earlier this month, Zillow gets sued by home buyers, saying that their Zillow Flex program artificially inflated compensation and commission to their buyers agents, and also allegations of steering, which is probably the biggest allegation. Steering that's a bad one. So Zillow's, yikes, they're having a tough month. Zillow promises its users a near complete view of the housing market simply by scrolling on their phones. The vision is under threat. Compass CEO Robert Refkin is leading the charge toward a more fragmented future in which more home listings are initially stashed away in private databases, available only to buyers who work with certain agents. Refkin says this model would give sellers more control over where and how their homes are marketed. Zillow, along with many others in the industry, argues that sharing listings widely gives buyers a fair shake and sellers the best opportunity to get top dollar. I am very torn on this topic. I do believe sellers should have control over the way in which they sell and market their private property and their real estate. However, it doesn't take an idiot to realize that the more people that see the product you're trying to sell, the better chance that A, you're going to sell it quicker, and B, you're going to sell it for more money. So while I do respect sellers for having the right to sell their home the way that they want, it also would be foolish to say that it would benefit sellers to not expose their home to as many people and eyeballs as possible. It's tough to bet against Zillow. With more than 220 million unique visitors each month, the company has the reach, name recognition, and market cap to square up against any of the industry's giants. It's hard to take out the king. Jack Miller, the president and CEO of T360, a real estate management consulting firm, tells me, whatever the challenge of the week is for Zillow, I still think they're such a powerful player. This is true. Zillow is, Zillow's the kind of the bona fide go-to. That's the search engine, right? There's no question, though, that things are changing. Portals like Zillow, Redfin, and Realtor.com have never been able to show you every home on the market. Even in the internet age, agents have always quietly passed around some listings before launching them widely. This is true. That's just how it is. For instance, today, I just put a home in the MLS. I put it in as active, and I immediately marked it as sold because I sold it off market. I had a buyer who wanted a very specific home. We approached that seller directly and said, hey, we can make this really easy and quick for you. We can give you your price as long as it's reasonable. Would you like to sell your home? And they said, yeah, sure. That sounds great. Never went on the open market. And that is every right of that seller and that buyer to put that deal together. But that is a great example of a home that will never be on Zillow, was never found on Zillow, was never certain. I mean, now you could put it in, you could find it on Zillow as a closed sale, but not as an active listing. But no company has leaned into this strategy like Compass. The firm's website is home to thousands of listings that don't appear on other sites, and its pending purchase of one of the country's largest real estate companies could dramatically expand that stockpile of exclusive inventory. Meanwhile, other brokerage firms are erecting their own walled gardens or threatening to follow suit. Those in Zillow's camp warn that we're headed toward a world in which just a handful of large brokerages control access to real estate listings, muscling out smaller players and making it tougher for buyers to find their dream homes. You know, there's some concern there, absolutely, that if a very small group of real estate brokers or agents controlled a very large amount of the data or listings, that could make it tough for some people that maybe don't want to work with them, and that's their right. The scenario is still a long way off, says Mike Del Prete, a real estate tech strategist and scholar in residence at the University of Colorado Boulder. But Compass's latest blockbuster deal marks yet another move in that direction. If 10 years from now we're looking back, Del Prete tells me, you could easily imagine looking at this moment and saying, yes, that's when it all changed. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. The most serious of Zillow's legal threats is also the most recent. On Tuesday, the Federal Trade Commission sued their search giant and one of its rivals, Redfin, over a $100 million deal the pair made in February. Under the terms of the agreement, the two companies would share their advertisements for multifamily rental properties, think apartments and condos, across their respective sites and subsidiaries, including rent.com and apartmentguide.com. The FTC's antitrust complaint accuses the companies of turning Redfin's sites into a copy of the listings that appear on Zillow's sites, destroying competition while driving up costs for property managers and apartment hunters. A Zillow spokesperson said in an emailed statement that the arrangement actually benefits those groups and has expanded renters' access to multifamily listings across multiple platforms, helping property managers fill vacancies and renters find homes. I would love to see them elaborate on that. I'm not sure how eroding the competition makes it easier or better for renters or landlords. I would love to hear their reasoning behind that. A Redfin spokesperson made a similar argument, writing in a statement that the company strongly disagrees with the FTC's allegations. Well, of course they do. That's far from the only major lawsuit looming over Zillow. In late July, the real estate firm CoStar sued Zillow for copyright infringement and more than $1 billion in damages, claiming the search giant had cribbed some 46,000 CoStar watermarked photos for use on its own website. That does happen. That happens all the time, where you'll see watermarks on the photos. And what people don't realize, like if there's a watermark on the photo, that means somebody freaking owns it. And it means probably you don't own it. And if you use a watermarked photo and you don't have permission, that is a copyright violation. And that stuff gets expensive very, very quickly. Why? My guess is that there's something to this. My guess is that CoStar is going to try to settle for something that's not $1 billion. My guess is that, I mean, obviously CoStar knew if there were 46,000 CoStar watermarked images on the website, CoStar should know that. They should know that someone's using our photos. They're getting taken from somewhere. I mean, 46,000, like, do you have an intern that can just be like, look for our photos because there's 46,000 of them? So that's a serious lawsuit, but obviously I think they're looking to settle on that one. Then on September 22nd, a pair of big-time plaintiffs' law firms, the same firms whose antitrust case against the real estate industry resulted in a $418 million settlement, and rewrote the rules around agent commissions, although nothing really has changed. And if anything, agent commissions went up. So thank you to those lawyers. They accused the company of effectively driving up real estate costs by directing buyers to work with agents who pay Zillow as much as 40% of their commission from the deal, which to me, this is a bad one for them because this is a pretty easy one to prove. This is very well documented. I think this one's going to be a big problem for Zillow. It's way too early to tell what will become of the FTC lawsuit. As for the other two complaints, there's a chance They cost Zillow a lot of money, but they're not really surprising. CoStar, which owns rival home search website Homes.com, maintains a long-running feud with Zillow. This is like the real estate database gang wars. It's pretty wild stuff. The company has spent hundreds of millions of dollars on technology and splashy ads to boost its search offering, but has so far failed to make a real dent in Zillow's market share. CoStar's CEO, Andy Florence, has publicly backed Compass in the fight over real estate listings and, in April, memorably bashed Zillow in a mass email to real estate agents. I did receive that email, and the email was good, and he was correct and made a lot of very good points. As for the class action suit, the plaintiff's firm may have sensed an opportunity to strike at Zillow in a moment of weakness, or maybe they simply spied more meat on the bone after scoring a victory against the National Association of Realtors and the industry's largest brokerages. Zillow, for its part, has vowed to fight these claims. In an emailed statement, a company spokesperson said the complaint fundamentally misrepresents how Zillow operates and the value we've delivered to buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals for nearly 2 decades. It's interesting because most real estate professionals don't like Zillow. There's a lot of buyers out there that don't like Zillow, and sellers don't really care about Zillow as long as their home gets sold. The reaction around the industry has been mostly a shoulder shrug. One contracts law professor writing on LinkedIn said the suit is going nowhere fast. The war over real estate listings, by contrast, feels far more existential for Zillow. That's why the news last week that Compass had struck a $1.6 billion deal to acquire Anywhere Real Estate, one of the biggest real estate companies in the world, and the owner of household names like Century 21, Corcoran, and Coldwell Banker, overshadowed the legal threats. Yes, if you guys have been living under a rock, Compass has really expanded its reach. They are trying to buy Anywhere Real Estate for $1.6 billion, and that is a conglomerate of brands, like including some of the ones listed there: Century 21, Corcoran, Coldwell Banker, also most notably Sotheby's, my ex-firm, as well. So Compass is really trying to get a big score. Century 21 and Coldwell Banker do have a decent market share, and they're really trying to expand their reach and their influence by buying up competition. It's a tale as old as time, right? Buy up the competition. Makes it much easier when you can do that. The combined entity, including franchisees and company-owned offices, would boast around 216,000 agents in the U.S. and account for about 24% of the national sales volume based on 2024 figures. The kind of national market share is unheard of in a traditionally fragmented industry and would almost surely give Compass more leverage in its showdown with Zillow. The advantage would especially be pronounced in cities like San Francisco, New York, Washington, D.C., where Compass and Anywhere brands easily combine for between 30 and 50% of the market. Any player of that size in a local market can absolutely change the rules, Miller tells me. At its core, the battle is about the access to for sale homes, who gets to see them, and where they are, and where they have to go to find them. Compass's Refkin has spent the past year promoting a 3-phase marketing strategy that encourages agents and their clients to market homes exclusively on their brokerage website before sharing with the industry database known as the multiple listing service. To me, that's foolish. I don't think you should encourage that. I think that if there is a unique circumstance where the client seller wants to go that way, then that's the way that you should go. Remember, as agents, we have a fiduciary duty to the seller, well, to our client, in this case, the seller. And it is typically not a good idea to limit the amount of exposure a listing gets. So honestly, I would really feel like I'm going against my fiduciary duty, telling a seller, hey, you know what? Don't put your home on the MLS. Just put it on our private database. It'll be better for you. Well, how will that be better? It's going to be seen by less people. It won't be found nearly as easily online. You're going to attract less eyeballs. You might not see all the buyers that are interested in it might not even know about it. It's just not good. So I think encouraging that is not a good idea. I think offering it as an avenue for sellers that want or need that is a great idea. There are some sellers that are high profile, celebrities, athletes, politicians, local business owners. You know, maybe there's just people in a community, even a small community, but they're very well known and they don't want people knowing that they're moving or what's going on. then I can understand it. But just to say, hey, this is going to be a standard thing where we just put all of our listings in this private database, that's not good for the seller, in my opinion. Those databases then funnel that information to agents, brokerages, and search portals such as Zillow. Most agents share homes on the MLS pretty much as soon as they're for sale. Compass, on the other hand, offers buyers who visit its website or work with one of its agents an inside track on some of the most desirable properties. So again, if it's a Compass listing and they do this, this approach. As a buyer, if you're interested and you're not working with Compass, you won't see it. And if you do want to see the details of that listing, even just the basic details, you have to sign up and you have to work with them. I don't think that's really fair, and I don't think that's really good for the seller. Compass, on the other hand, offers buyers who visit its website. This strategy, Refkin argues, also gives sellers the chance to test the waters and tinker with pricing before sharing their listing on sites like Zillow, which tracks price cuts and the number of days a house has been on the market. Information he claims puts sellers at a disadvantage in negotiations. That's foolish. That's foolish. You shouldn't need to test the waters and tinker with pricing. You should know exactly what pricing you're going to go in with because there's comps, there's comparables, you have market data, you have research. That's what a good agent does. Oh, my cat scared me. She got in here and she just meowed really quick. Hi, kitty. So I don't think that that's a good reason. I don't think it's a good reason to say, oh, well, in case we need to tinker with the price, we don't want to, list it right away. Also, there's ways to do that without going on the market. For instance, if I had a seller that said, Joe, list my house at $1 million. And I was like, oh, it seems a little bit on the high side. Here, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here are the comps. Here is the data. And you can see this a little bit high. And they go, oh, well, I don't believe you. We want to do it. Say, okay, well, you know what? I will get the advice of some other local agents and brokers, see what they say. You can shop that around. Say, hey, I've got this property coming up. Call up the other local brokers and agents. I know this is crazy. Your agent has to do work. I know, weird, but make them do work. Say, hey, I want you to call other brokers in town, other agents in town, and get their opinion. Do they have a buyer for something like this? Do they think it's worth this price? You don't need to put it on some private database in order to tinker with the price. I don't agree with that argument. Zillow has a clear interest in stamping out the three-phase model. Its search portal suddenly looks at a lot less valuable to buyers if big brokerages like Compass are hoarding listings in their own websites. Guys, what I say, Zillow's product is house listings, right? So if they can't get the listings, they have less products, they attract less people, they make less money. Zillow also claims that Compass's strategy is bad for consumers, period. In June, Zillow tried to strike back at Compass, banning listings from its site that have been advertised publicly for more than one business day via a post on a brokerage's websites say or a sign in front of a yard without being shared widely in the MLS. Some executives I spoke to around this time likened the so-called Zillow ban to a checkmate move, forcing agents to explain to their sellers why their homes would never appear on Zillow. Compass responded by suing Zillow in federal court, claiming the company was using its monopolistic power to quash an innovative business model. I mean, the way that I see it, it'll be really interesting to see the way that the courts kind of weigh in on this. But it'd be very interesting because the way that I see it, Zillow is its own private entity, and they don't have to put your listings on there if they don't want to. So if they say, "Hey, we don't want your listings on our thing," they know that could hurt their business. That's up to them. That's their decision to make. Here's the thing. Zillow's supposed crackdown doesn't appear to have done much of anything. Refkin and company are still going full steam ahead on their three-phase strategy. A recent analysis of Compass data by Del Prete, the University of Colorado researcher, found that the company's volume of exclusive inventory has held firm despite Zillow's new policy. Compass maintains a trove of more than 8,000 listings that can't be found anywhere else, roughly in line with May levels. Meanwhile, the company is poised to expand its walled garden with an anywhere acquisition. Now, it's also important to realize that Compass themselves will tell you that as of these 8,000 listings, a very large majority go out of the Compass exclusive database and do go into the MLS. So while buyers may not see those listings immediately or right away, eventually, most of them do make it in the MLS and do sell traditionally on the open market like most properties. But yeah, very, very interesting to see that, Zillow just thinks that, or Compass thinks that this is the greatest thing. The other thing to keep in mind is that a lot of Compass's listings for buyers out there, if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I need to go work with a Compass agent because they got all these listings, keep in mind that Compass's market share is limited to a lot of major kind of metropolitan areas, luxury high-end markets, things like that. So, if you're a $5 million apartment or condo buyer, yeah, and you're looking in Washington, D.C. or Miami, maybe you do need to work with Compass. If you are a $650,000 single family home buyer in the suburbs of Orange County, California, you probably don't need to work with Compass. In fact, it would probably hurt you to work with Compass because you might limit the listings that you see. So for, I'd say 95% of home buyers out there, what Compass is doing is probably not going to affect you, and it's probably going to make no difference on the properties that you're interested in or looking at. In this chess game of lawsuits and buyouts, each side has plenty of moves left to make. It'll likely be at least a year before the Anywhere deal clears regulatory hurdles and the ink dries. Even then, Refkin will face the daunting task of spreading the Compass gospel to thousands of franchisees and agents who work as independent contractors and are free to move to another brokerage if they clash with the exclusive inventory strategy or any of the other facets of Compass's business. Del Prete has for years warned that the real estate industry could devolve into its own version of the entertainment streaming wars, with behemoths racing to gobble up content for their own platforms. Stacking up exclusive content in real estate, however, isn't as easy as it is in Hollywood. Disney can buy up Marvel, flip a switch, and make all those superhero movies available exclusively to Disney Plus subscribers. But nobody can force a home seller to list their home as a private exclusive, says Del Prete, referring to the listings held closely in Compass's internal database. So the best that Compass can do is package it up, add value, and sell it. The fact remains that sellers and their agents are accustomed to listing the homes in the MLS and, by extension, on Zillow. A research note from analysts at Citizens Bank following the news of the Anywhere deal estimated that Zillow could lose about 1% of listings on its site in 2027 as a result, but argued that the company has yet to forfeit its position as the dominant destination for home buyers. That's the resounding sentiment I hear from people around the industry. Zillow took its lumps this summer, no doubt, but it'll take a lot more to topple the throne. This doesn't mean that buyers and sellers can afford to tune out this battle. At a very least, buyers should take an active approach in their home search by scanning a range of websites and, if they choose, finding an agent with connections necessary to unearth hidden homes in their local market. Sellers should consult with their agents and ensure that they have a solid grasp on the pros and cons of any marketing strategy. Keep in mind, too, that the home search landscape could look much different in just a few short years. For Zillow, sure, but also for anyone cruising the internet for the next place. Forget the minutia, forget the numbers, forget the data. Just go up to 40,000 feet. Del Prete tells me the fuel behind Compass's exclusive inventory push is still there, and it's increasing. Yikes, guys. So it'll be really, really interesting to see what shakes out with all the Zillow lawsuit stuff. I don't know if the whole Compass thing is going to work out with its acquisition of Anywhere. And the reason I think that is because I do think that the FTC is going to could say, hey, listen, that's not like, there's going to be some problems for consumers here. You can't buy and consolidate all this. It's going to limit consumers' options. And I think that there is potential that that deal might not go through, but we'll see. And it's going to get locked up in courts for a long time. And a lot of attorneys are going to make a ton of money. And of course, nobody worries about their compensation, but of course, agents are always being attacked for their compensation. Interesting how that works. So the lawyers will get rich. It'll get locked up in the courts, and eventually we'll find out what happens. But it'll be very interesting to monitor. It'll be interesting to monitor how this affects the day-to-day landscape of the real estate situation. I think for the most part, for most people, for a large majority of buyers, it's not going to make a huge difference. I don't think, but we'll see. We will see. All right, what's next, guys? Well, we are coming up to the end of the stream, and if you've liked what I've had to say and you're enjoying the content and you need a good real estate agent, you can go to workwithjoerealtor.com right now. Do it. You can go there right now. Boom. The link is in chat. Look at it. It just appeared as magic. And if you're thinking about buying or selling a property, whether it's local here in the greater Los Angeles area or somewhere else, anywhere else across the nation, I have a great network of high quality real estate agents. There's a ton of real estate agents out there, and 80% of them don't know what they're doing. And about 20% of them actually know what they're doing. You want to work with what we call a 20% agent, and I can get you hooked up with one of those. So you can go to this website, workwithjoerealtor.com. You can click on any of these buttons. You can click down here, you can click here, and it will connect you to a little questionnaire, a little form. You can fill that out. Tell me what you're looking for. Tell me where you're looking and what your timeline is. And we can get you connected with a great real estate agent that's going to do a great job for you. And if you are local in the greater LA region, I can work with you directly and I can help you on your home buying and selling process. Go to workwithjoerealtor.com, fill out the forms, and we can get in touch. And I can talk to you about how to get you the best success on your real estate journey. Alrighty, guys, we are coming up on over an hour, a long 1 hour and 17. Thank you so much for giving me some of your very, very valuable time on this Wednesday evening. It's always much appreciated. And thanks for hanging out, guys. Hope you enjoyed the stream. And oh, here we go. Hi there. Do agents have to pay referral fees? It depends on the setup. So it depends on. There's a lot of things that go into that. That is one facet. It really just depends. Depends on where you're moving to, where you're moving from, the property that you're interested in, what you're looking to buy or sell. There's a lot that goes into it. Sometimes there are referral fees. Sometimes there are not referral fees. And if you have specific questions, I'm always happy to answer them. All right, guys, if you like the stream, if you got some value, if you're still hanging out right down here in the center, there is a thumbs up icon. Please hit that thumbs up icon, like the stream. It really does help me out. It does help push the stream to some more people. Dominic, thanks for hanging out. Always good to have you in the stream. Thanks for hanging out, brother. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, somewhere I think down here a little bit lower, there's a subscribe button. It's totally free. It doesn't cost anything. Please consider subscribing. If you haven't done so, you'll be alerted for streams and new content as it comes out. And again, doesn't cost a dime. Red, thanks for hanging out. Have a good evening. I'll see you next week. Guys, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for giving me some of your very, very valuable time. I hope you've had a good week, and I hope you have a good rest of your week. We'll be back next Wednesday, same time, same place, same channel, talking about the same real estate news. If there's ever a topic you guys want me to cover, put that in the chat at any time, and I'll be happy to do some research and cover it on the next live stream. All right, do we have anything else? Let me take a look here at the notes. No, we are all good to go. All right, guys, have a great rest of your week. I'll see you next time. Bye.